if you think that the technicians around your area don't know what your techs are
Yeah.
getting paid, and if they don't know what the other technicians in the area are getting paid, you're dead wrong.
In the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Dear God, thank you for bringing us together here to the 10 mil after party. Help us to take all the things that we learned, put them into play, and to come up with new ways to impact as many people, the young generation, the old generation, people that are currently doing it. Help the people that are supporting the people doing it, the women behind the scene, all the people that are involved, even the clients, even the person getting their things worked on or fixed by these people. God bless them and lay their hands over them and make sure that they, as gifted as they are with their hands, to be as gifted they are as strong in the head. Amen.
Amen. So pre-show, we was kind of just shooting the bull, and we were thinking, is there really a technician shortage? I've seen this people talking about it on, to be honest with you, on LinkedIn. Like I've seen it kind of bouncing around a little bit, and like, what's the argument? Like, there's not a shortage of people that want to be mechanics. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like for me anyway, there's not at least heavy duty from my perspective in heavy duty, when I try to get young people, I'm not finding that difficult. You know, we pay good for apprentices. There's a lot of opportunities to get them in with bonuses and tooling and all the things nowadays. I'm not personally having a hard time finding new people, at least people to join.
Mm, mhm.
You know what I mean? And Brent, you were at the schools. They're shoving them kids through there like it's going out of style, ain't it?
Yeah, when I was at the college here, the last two classes we pushed through, we had six. I think we had six classes of first period running through. So 24 students times six, whatever that works out to be.
Right.
Call it 150 people, right? In 8 weeks. Yeah, 150 people in 8 weeks, right? That's about rough math there, I guess, right? And 150 people through in first year in 8 weeks, and then the next 8 weeks we're going to do another 150. So that's 150 first year trained apprentices out the door. So that's in 16 weeks you got 300 technicians that have completed
That's
first year training.
16 weeks. So that's each class that graduates is around that.
Well,
Or they're
because
pushing them to.
yeah, apprenticeship like in Alberta is a little bit different than I guess apprenticeship down there. Here, it's all like governed by a governing body called Alberta, apprenticeship and industry training. So once a year for 4 years in our trade, you have to go to school for 8 weeks, right? Or you can challenge it. You can, but a lot of guys just opt to go to school. But yeah, there's some challenging that does happen. You just challenge the exam and after you get enough working hours, right? But yeah, we're pushing through a lot. I stopped in and had coffee with a few instructors there a couple of weeks ago. Looks like there's going to be a summer class running to try and get some more students and apprentices through. So, I mean, the trade's busy. Automotive program last year ran summer classes, right? So
Yeah.
that's the first time we've ever done that, because ideally it's like a real school, right? So summertime, no classes happening, and here we are starting to run summer classes, right? Because it's that busy. Enrollment's
The
huge.
college that I'm involved in,
Yeah.
they're year over year growing,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And just over the last probably 3-4 years that I've been involved with them, they've just
Mhm.
boom, 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 boom. They just keep growing, growing, growing. I'm not seeing this now. I will say, like, while you were talking there, I did kind of search like what their argument is. They're saying that let's see here. They're saying there isn't a technician shortage. There's a shortage of technicians willing to work under current conditions, is one of the arguments that people are making as well,
Mm.
which I feel like that's probably I feel like that's a contributing factor to technicians leaving, but not joining. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like they're still coming in. We still got a
Mhm.
chance to turn some of those kids.
It's funny when we talk about off rip about the shortage, we kind of start talking about the colleges and the schools and the trade schools, because it's where the industry has definitely changed now to the point where the techs are more wanted than ever. But 10 years ago, 15, sheesh, how many years ago? Probably 10 or 12, 15 almost, when I was in trade school. That was the agenda they were pushing. Pushing, it might have been true, but that was their selling point to get people into trade school. Like, a lot of people were recruited into my trade school. I
Mhm.
probably had a similar amount starting class, like what Brent was talking about, but the amount that finished was nowhere near what started. So it was like they did a really good job of explaining that and kind of dangling the carrot and showing what you could make in a dealer, because it's a pretty damn good living. There's 6-figure salaries sprinkled all over the industry. So they show that, and people are like, yo, I want that. I want to make sure I like working on cars, or I like taking stuff apart. So that's to the point where they're like, hey, we need you guys. There's a shortage. And even that time was post like wait 10, where dealers were actually closing. Like I graduated going into dealerships closing. So I was like, all right, where's the need for them, or where's the
Yeah.
shortage?
Yeah. Where's the
if
shortage
they're
at?
if they're dropping
Yeah.
off. I know it ain't the tech's fault.
Mhm.
And then, coming into today's age where everything is, we're reducing jobs. Well, we're not, we're grooming different jobs. Like
Yeah.
AI and computers are not taking a lot of jobs, making a lot of jobs more efficient to the point where they could reduce certain staff members, or they could just have a program do it. But techs haven't been replaced. They don't foresee them being replaced. They see them getting more valuable, but also they're not, under like a silk cloak, protected from that. They're going to also use that to kind of reduce technicians in a way too, more efficient, and to be able to do that. So like the shortage is the agenda of the shortage is kind of weird. How they're going to keep pushing it. I don't know if it's true. While you were looking up some things, Marshall, I was wondering if maybe we can get some stats on some actual numbers,
Yeah.
or maybe, available jobs versus graduating candidates, apprenticeship programs, entered programs. Like you were saying, Brent, and what I was saying is, even though you're in apprenticeship
Mhm.
or you made it into trade school, it doesn't mean you're going to finish to stay there.
Yeah.
There's a ton of hype. You're young. You don't know what
Mhm.
you want to do. You're like, oh, let me go try this.
Mhm.
A lot of people didn't make it past intro. And it's like, yo,
Yeah.
this ain't for you, bro.
Yeah.
You could tell that off rip. They do a really, really good job of recruiting. Shortage of good ones, freaking Shortage of some solid hitters, like that's a fact,
I
Jack.
mean,
Maybe that's what they're talking about.
Richard joined in, and so Richard, we're talking about, is there really a technician shortage?
Well, technicians, just bad technicians? No.
Yeah. So you asked for some stats, John. I found this one kind of interesting. It said that the survey found 31% of shops listed technician shortages as their biggest challenge, yet only 3% listed employee retention as a major goal.
Was a shot fired.
Yeah, just cleaning house on a regular basis, or they're losing a lot of hands. They're not worried about
Yeah.
keeping their hands on, but then they're saying, "Oh my God, like we can't, we don't have enough techs," but they're not retaining the ones that
You're
they
not
have,
paying them. Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah,
You're
yeah,
doing something messed up. Yeah. You don't feed them.
Yeah. What's
Dark light.
I know there's a statistic, and I think Josh Taylor's talked about this too, but what's the average cost of a dealership essentially to bring on a new employee and just train them onboarding wise, right?
like to
'Cause
train them from scratch.
to train them from scratch, just to get them used to your systems, blah, blah, just to do that, right? Alone, right? So essentially they say your new hire isn't really going to be, productive for the first 60, 90 days, right?
Yeah.
You're going to invest quite a bit of money in there, right? So if you've got 3% of shops, would you say worried about retention, then how much money are they throwing away every 60 or 90 days just to bring in a new set of hands?
There's no doubt that so what I've heard once or twice, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was who's that dude, the service advisor guru, Chris Collins. He always says that he who has the technicians wins, and that's he couldn't say that any better, because if it's better to have, it's definitely quality over quantity in a lot of ways, unless LOF is like a monkey could do it, but even so, if you have people that are going to take care of the clients and keep them coming back and give you a good reputation, like those good techs are really important. And I think the best dealers, or the best structures, do have that, maybe those 3%ers that do have some kind of goal for retention, probably something like what you're working for now, Marshall, probably
Yeah.
something for like any type of dealers that down here, Raymond BMW, they actually have a school in the dealership. They have a big enough dealership where they actually have training classrooms inside the dealer, and they're grooming their own techs. They're kind of having their own, training program where they invest into every single person that onboard, to the point where they're building them into an asset. And companies are only that big for certain reasons. They don't do that by screwing people over. They have very structured growth plans. Marshall knows they have, areas for you to pick up, and they have a space for everyone. Say maybe you're a good qualified person, but maybe this wasn't for you. They find an outlet for any other way. Like there's writing, there's parts, there's a whole bunch of ways. And they train that culture to the T, and those are the ones that are the biggest and the ones that grow the best. And it might be coincidence, but maybe at the end of the day, they're doing everything right. Maybe they're taking care of their salesmen just as good as they're taking their techs. Maybe they're training their sales guys to sell and to have good relationships just as good as the techs in the shop. So it's not just I'm short of tech. It's, hey, they're selling these cars. We got hella cars to service, and I need people bringing these clients back, just like I want my employees to stay here.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just using chat, but it says, so I've just been running through it, and so we've come up with a quick like down and dirty deal. It says year 160 to 100,000. This is all depending on wages, training intensity, tooling, expenses, and mentor involvement. So it's like all inclusive. So that's their salary, everything. 60 to 100,000 for year one, 40 to 80,000 for year two, and 30 to 60,000 for year three. So the first 3 year total investment is somewhere between 130 to 240,000. If you're paying extremely competitive wages and the OEM training, over that 3 year period, it's saying could possibly exceed 250,000. But it does break it down, and it's like into detail. It's like apprentice wages during training, somewhere between 40,000 to 70,000. Benefits, payroll taxes, insurance, a mentor technician, lost productivity. So like the mentor that's training them, the lost, income from their productivity, 10 to 40,000. OEM and vendor training, 5 to 20,000. I think that's low. Specialty tools provided. We're going to spend that money anyway, whether we have an apprentice or not. I don't feel like that's really there.
Yeah.
Comebacks, mistakes, and rework, 2,000 to 10,000. I feel like that's probably fairly accurate over 3 years. Administrative onboarding costs, I feel like this is probably low, 1,000 to 5,000. So I feel like some of it's kind of close, some of it's a little off,
But overall, 100 G's for a year.
100. Yeah, I mean, all inclusive with their salary and stuff. Yeah. So you may be only paying them 60, but with lost productivity of the mentor and all those things, yeah, it's up there.
You think it's caught like the investment is 100 grand and they're just not getting a full return? Like, hey, the guy made us 50K or something like that.
Yeah,
Or they put in 100. You're not seeing that 100
yeah.
until
So
he's there in year two.
it doesn't doesn't have the return.
Profit
So,
loss. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So that they're going to turn some hours and all those things. So it doesn't have that included though. So
Yeah.
that calculation's pretty
Yeah. They're
easy.
going to, return hours.
Your loss is 2,100 hours times your ELR. That's your loss.
Of not having that tech?
Yeah.
Of not having a
Of
tech?
not having that bay, that bay occupied by having the tech walk out the door. That's a minimum of 2,100 hours times your ELR
right.
Per month.
for the year. So 2,100 hours
No,
is
yeah.
your standard.
That's a year.
Yeah, you're doing
standard
one
year.
tech. Yeah, one tech.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah. So you can subtract that.
I mean,
you could
if your ELR is
figure out
150 an
what's your true
hour,
cost.
$300,000 lost right there for the year.
Yeah. So if you're 100K in an apprentice, I mean, that's a drop in the bucket if you're pulling in 300K.
No, but that's the cost to the business for having an empty bay is 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Times your ELR. That it's not the cost of the cost of the employee is one thing to bring them in and train them up and everything like that. But from a business perspective, that's what you lose every day. There's not somebody in that bay, right?
Yeah. I was just saying simply that, like, if you took that and then you deducted the expense of the technician that we are training, then you would have that as a net positive,
Yeah.
right? Is what I was just trying to say.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
But that like what I'm
So I feel like that's a no brainer, right?
Would you say so? We're talking about wasted labor, right?
Yeah, like lost labor for not having a tech.
So riddle me this while we're on the topic. If it's such an important metric, then there must be a ton of gaps that have to be measured to see where we're missing technicians or we have empty base slots that are not bringing us in money.
Like because people are measuring it, it's because there's a
For
lot.
sure. It's one of the
right.
most measured things,
Well, I don't know, man. Like, when's the last time you I mean, I don't know. I feel like a lot of us working on our own stuff, but like, it's hard to get your car in to get service these days, like in a reasonable time frame. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, you take your car to the dealer, at least my experience has been not that great here lately. So, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've had some back-to-back kinda crappy experiences
Yeah.
at dealerships here lately, and so, like, I don't have a I don't think it's I think to Richard's point, I don't think it's a lack of not having the technicians, it's a lack of having some quality ones, you know what I mean? Because, like, I've had some I mean, I haven't had any quality issues with my Jeeps yet, luckily, thank God, but, that last one you guys know about, with the handprints all over my truck and all that, that was wild. 4-hour service is wild.
That
So,
was the work truck.
yeah, yeah, and then my lost productivity, right? So, God bless.
So
That was wild work. I should have just changed it myself.
that was a conversation I had. So last year, pretty much the same time at my old dealership, GM was sponsoring the Calgary Stampede. So they had all the executives were out and they came through the dealership and
Yeah, I remember
yeah,
that.
so I got pulled to the side and had a conversation with like the president of GM Canada and their like head of like technician resources and stuff like that. And they're like, "Oh man, you got a shop full of technicians here." They're like, "Was it really like, that must have been really hard to find?" And I said, "You know what? That it took a long time to build it to where it's at because it's hard to find quality technicians. If I
Right.
said, if I wanted to fill a shop tomorrow, I could fill a shop tomorrow with techs, but you don't want to invite them over for dinner. Like that's
Yeah,
that's you can
I
build a
was just
shop.
gonna say, man, you easily. It's
yeah,
like you could go army style. Hey, here's your gun.
Yeah, pretty much. Like
Figure it out later.
you can and it's the same, but the same mentality comes to shops as well. Shops get reputations, and our community isn't a big one. The shops that techs know are horrible, they spread pretty fast that you don't want to work there. Before you even talk to like a recruiter or an HR person there, the first people that you should talk to are your buddies. Be like, "Hey man, have you ever heard anything about dealership X?" And you're like, "Oh, you want to stay away from that place."
yeah.
That's
Dude, I've said it 100 times, dude. I've said it on pretty much every podcast I've ever been on, was that if you think that the technicians around your area don't know what your techs are
Yeah.
getting paid, and if they don't know what the other technicians in the area are getting paid, you're dead wrong. Like, they know everything. They know what their benefits cost over at Joe Blow's shop. They know all of that stuff. They know if they're getting bonused, if they're getting screwed out of their bonuses, if they know all of that stuff. So, and likewise, your business is all over town, dog. Like, everybody knows. So I feel like, you've got to really be mindful of that, like, from a management standpoint, that, like, everybody knows your dirty laundry because your techs are telling everybody in town about it. You know what I mean? So, and that's not saying that, like, we can't hold people accountable or anything like that. Like, I think people, need to be held accountable for doing poor work and all of those things, and then they get a reputation, same thing, same way. But I'm saying that, like, you need to be mindful of the things that you're offering and make sure that you're actually, if you offer a bonus, don't be trying to figure out every way to keep the techs from getting it. You know what I mean? Just drop. There's the first F bomb, I think.
Wow, you were the first one.
Little slip.
Yeah. Sorry, Josh.
Now you're getting in flow state.
Getting in that flow
Let
state
it
for sure.
flow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shoot, man, I had something good to add to that. It was basically, you know how like the good customer experience,
Right.
good customer, it's odd how much less they tell people about the experience. If someone brings it up, be like, I had the greatest experience, everybody's, so and so is very nice. But the bad customer, Marshall, go and get your truck with the fingerprints. You're telling the group chats, you're telling your
Bro,
boys
yeah.
at work, you're telling your mother not to go there. It's like the same thing about the person that worked next to you or got forced out, got fired, whatever. He could have got fired for whatever reason, and that person is going to has to find, not has to, but most likely, I mean, it's his job and that's what he knows. So he's going to find something. He knows your area. He's going to commute to your area, to your clients, whatever it is. They're going to find it and they're going to work there. And the first thing they're going to do there, is as soon as you start getting a little friendly there, or as soon as you start talking about clients there, like, oh, whatever bad blood between them, oh, so and so, they do this. Did you know they do this? Did you know this? So that stuff is like a bad customer, pretty much. That's
Yeah,
like your
yeah.
dirty laundry out.
Yeah, that's the thing is, yeah, that it spreads. You know what's interesting too is I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this before, but we have the customer experience, right? And then we have the employee experience. And I wish one of these days maybe we can invite some guests onto our show. But there's a gal that I've worked with in the past. Her name is Roberta O'Keefe. I think her last name's O'Keefe. Sorry, Roberta, if I said it wrong. But maybe we can get her on. But that's her shtick, right? Is like employee experience and customer experience. And I never really put a lot of thought into that, but that's what she, and I don't want to put words in her mouth or whatever, but it seems to me that that's what, and there's, I guess, quite a few people that do this type of job where they go and consult a place on like that that type of stuff, like what the perception is of people out in the public of your company and what it's like to work there, and like they're looking at your Glassdoor reviews and all of these things, and they're like, "Hey guys, y'all got a reputation out there." You know what I mean? Like, of course you don't. You're having a recruiting problem because have you looked at your Glassdoor? You got a 3.2, and everybody's talking mad smack about this, that, and the third. You know, and that's her job. You know, we have all these people that do the advertising stuff. You know, and they're like looking at your Google reviews and helping you get that lined out. Well, I mean, I envision someone like her that's what they do, except for they're like lined out on your brand name out there. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to get you right out there. You know, keep your reputation at bay. You know what I mean? Because we've all known like, hey, you don't want to go work over there. They don't pay. They don't do this, that, and the other. And you can go right on there and look at their Google reviews. They got texts in there talking smack about working there. You go to their Glassdoor, same deal. You know, I don't know.
I think as true as that is, I think if any one of us, you don't want to be in a place that sucks. But if you're like, if you've been in the game for long enough, you've been in some ones, I'll go back. If you've been in the game long enough, you've been in some rough shops, and it don't matter which one they put you in. Yeah, it's gonna be harder, but when you're operating on a level like, you know, the men here and the men in our group, I know they don't play that. Like, I know they'll rip through all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I know that if they have to be there, they'll be there, and they'll do it. And they'll do it with a smile on their face while someone else is talking smack about them
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
know they're operating on a high level. Doesn't mean you want to be there, and doesn't mean, you know, you could still grow there, but ultimately it's very true what the reality is when you're trying to, that's not something, we're not all high level operators like ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, that can just walk into a room and face a bunch of people, find the most important person, or talk up anybody, hey, why is this way, and make an impact. There's That's not the people coming into these new positions.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not weak, they're inexperienced. They need coaching, they need guidance. So you put a kid like that into that type of environment, what do you think you're going to get? He's going to get chewed up and spit out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And from what we were just talking about, 3% is worried about that.
Yeah.
97, it ain't.
It's wild,
So
dude. The retention thing. So if I've seen some pretty like legit stats, like in-house stats, not where I currently work, but in the past, and where it and then but it really correlated directly to the industry metrics, which was like we were losing 50%, a little over 50% of our apprentices in the first year. So like we would hire somebody on, we'd start training them, and they wouldn't make it to their first year. We would lose half of the kids
he
that we would
died.
bring in, right? And I feel like that's pretty accurate industry wide, at least in heavy duty. But I would assume that that was probably pretty accurate automotive wise as well. And heavy duty is a little more forgiving because we're primarily hourly, right? So there's a little bit more of a forgiving situation there, and I think we do a better job of that like first 3 years of compensating. Our compensation packages are better, I think, for our technicians the first 3 years. And I'm not saying across the board. You know, there's going to be some outliers. I feel like there's some good places like the Wolf Pack over there that are probably paying their juniors pretty decent. But I think though industry wide though, you know, I feel like HD probably does a little bit better job, you know, than Brent. You might be able to throw in on that because like, you know, teaching at the school and stuff, you know, all those places are coming in. You guys have your job fairs and all that. You might have some more insight on that because you see the
Yeah,
automotive guys and the heavy duty guys trying to recruit.
you know, with the instructor that I worked with the most, he said this last 6 years, 7 years, he said it's the most automotive techs he's had come through. So a lot of automotive guys are flipping over to heavy duty. So, and like you talk to like some guys, they just want to try something new, or they're already doing quite a bit of heavy duty work. So why not? Right. And then there seems to be a big recruitment trend right now to try and hire automotive techs for the material handling world. Right.
From which
Because
world?
the material handling world, like
Forklifts.
forklifts, zoom booms, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Right. There's a
And
lot of that, like
yeah, and
electric
my
forklifts,
current facility, the current company I work at does a lot of material handling. I can go ahead and tell you, yeah, we're, actively recruiting because I mean it's a pretty only thing they got to really learn is the hydraulics. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Everything else
Right.
they already got the tools, the basic tooling, and all those things. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a shoe in. I mean, I actively recruit automotive technicians as well for what I do and truck and rail. So I mean, here's the spiel though, because it's like okay, so if I got a flat rate tech and Richard and John, you guys could probably you guys have actively worked flat rate for a long time, so you guys can, correct me if I'm wrong or tell me if my spiel sucks. But it's worked pretty well for me. So if I'm talking to a guy and I'm, here, let me set the scene. All right. So I go into Harbor Freight, I gotta pick something up, right? For whatever a project I'm working on. I see a guy, right? He's wearing his uniform. It says Honda, right? It says Honda on there. He's in his uniform. He's grabbing something for work. I go up to him. I say, "Hey, man, you working over at the Honda place?" He said, "Yeah, I'm over there at the Honda over on whatever." I said, "All right, cool. Well, hey, man, we're looking for some good hands. If you're interested, here's my business card, right?" And he starts, "Well, what do you guys do? What do you work on?" We start kind of cutting up a little bit. And I said, "Well, hey, listen, if you don't mind, what'd you make last year?" Right? I don't know why, but technicians are really open about what they made. Like they're real quick about like, this is exactly what I made. You're either proud of it or you're off about it, right? So they're a lot of times they'll straight up tell you, Richard sideways. But yeah, I don't know why, but technicians will straight up tell you real quick. Well, I made 60,000 last year or something, right? For some reason, they're quick to tell you. So here I am in my hourly mind. I'm like, okay, I literally will pull out my phone in front of them and I'm like, okay, guy made 60,000, right? And then I divide that by 52 and then I divide that by 40. He averaged $28.84 an hour, right? So I say it's 32. I'm thinking in my head, well, how long you been doing this? He says, well, I've been over at Honda for 6 years. I said, well, shoot, we're paying our six-year technicians $35 an hour. So then I figure it out real quick, and so I'm like, well, it looks like you come out to about $29 an hour. We could probably get you in the 35 range, and that would put you at you know 72,000. I can give you a $12,000 pay bump off rip. And we do our bonus structures like this, boom, 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 boom. And then now I'm talking, and then it's in like Flynn, right? 3 to 5 year techs I'm super competitive in that area. It's a little more difficult though when you got guys like Richard. Like if I saw Richard and I seen him over there and he was wearing his uniform, it'd be a little more difficult to get a guy like that because they're usually like I was talking to a guy the other day and he was in that 140 range. I'm like, you know what I mean? But when I get to talking to him,
You
I'm
want a
like,
truck?
he said, yeah, I've been thinking about getting out. I'm trying to do something different. So it's kind of funny you approached me. I said, oh, okay. Well, what's the reason? You know what I mean? Like, what are you trying to get out? Say, well, listen, dude, the flat rate is whatever, but like the shop I work at, they make me work Saturdays. I end up working 6 days a week, 10-hour days anyway to get my hours. He's like, to make my 140, I was working 6 days a week last year. I was working every single Saturday. I'm like, listen, bro, how many holidays did you get off last year? 2. He said, I got Christmas and Thanksgiving Day. I said, well, shoot, we got 11 paid holidays, right? We got 11 paid holidays, and this is what our
What's
PTO
that?
is, right? And then I'm like, well, are you willing to give up a little to have some time off with your family and do all those things? He's like, dude, that's what I'm looking for. And, if I got to give up 20K to have a little more time, my kids are growing up, this, that, and the other. And it's like, boom, now we're starting to get into this realm where I can afford a guy like that. You know what I'm saying? Where it's starting to make me a little more sense for me because like they don't have the specialties. I still gonna have to put a couple years into him to get him into the HD mindset, right? So it's like, yeah, he has the tools, he has a lot of the experience, he has all the electrical diagnostic stuff's lined out. I just got to get him used to that, and I might be able to turn him in a year a lot faster. Who knows? You know what I mean? But I got to be thinking mindful of it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I feel like it's not, to Brent's point, I don't think it's that hard anymore. flat rate used to have a lot more power behind it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
What do you think about that, Richard?
I think you're spot on. There's this growing resentment within the automotive community, and a lot of it all comes down to flat rate. Flat rate used to be you could make you can it's like, don't get me wrong, flat rate when done properly and when you work for a great shop, there's no reason why you can't make more than 100K a year being a journeyman, right? At an automotive. It's really hard to hit those numbers at any independent shop. I think Josh has a lot of those numbers to back that. There there's a huge appeal. It's more now to go to an hourly position than it is to be flat rate, because, like, I'm not gonna lie, these guys they're sick and tired of chasing these pennies now, right? There's more and more and more stuff that we're stacking on top of our flat rate technician, and we're telling them, like, where you're not gonna get paid for that, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're stacking on the video MPI, right? First was the paper inspection, and then the advisor would sell off that. And now all these OEMs are pushing video MPI. And it's like, okay, well, you want video MPIs to secure trust in the customer and with your product. But what are you as the manufacturer going to kick back to the dealership to chase that? And
Yeah.
a lot of the flat rate guys, they're scared of the game, and
Yeah.
they're getting tired of our paperwork is increasing every year. They're asking for more tracking codes for programming events and serial numbers on major assemblies that got to go on the vehicle. Like, I remember when I first started out, you weren't writing down serial numbers of engines. They meant the OEM that I was working for at the time didn't care. They didn't care the serial number of the
Yeah.
engine going in. Like, that was all. A lot of that was all documented from the parts end. It wasn't on the technician to document. And the hours were like, I've been in it for over a decade, and the hours were awesome. Like, I watched time cut come for no reason other than some schmuck putting his shortcut out on the internet. These
Yeah.
technicians forums, he puts a shortcut out, and then all of a sudden, within like a 3-week period, all the technicians are sitting there, and then we watch the labor time get by. And especially up here in Canada, the guys are making the jump to HD because they're finding employers that will pay for them to go to school, right? It's only, once you have your automotive ticket, it's only 2 more years, and you could have on-road or off-road or your trailer. Like, you could have dual tickets in that amount of time, and the employers that want you to come and work for them paying good money hourly, and they're paying for you to get that ticket. So the problem the automotive industry is facing right now is that people are leaving, especially in Alberta, because we got the patch. So people are leaving to go to work for company. They're getting overtime. They're getting a company truck. They're getting tool allowance. They're getting everything, and they're not having to struggle with flat rate anymore, right? So that's the main thing, is that flat rate, compared to, over 10 years when I started, it works when it works, but when it goes sideways, it's a big sideways in there.
Yeah. I think that's like, you're right.
There was
It's got to be a perfect environment. You know what I mean? Like a perfect storm, and it shouldn't be that way. Like, let's say, just off the top, making random numbers up, that like the top 10%, right? Or you can go to those top 10% places and make good money on flat rate. But then it's like the industry standard is like 90% of those places out there. It's difficult to go out there and make it, and you've got a guy that's been putting 5-6 years in at an automotive dealer, starting to get some certs, got some ASE stuff, or Richard, and your and Brent, your guys' place, in Canada, they finally get their ticket right at that 4 or 5 year mark, and they realize, well, this wasn't what I signed up for. This wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And then you've got them coming back and trying to switch over to the HD. For you guys, you have to go get a different ticket, right? But for us, it's just, they're just coming knocking. You know what I mean? Or they find someone like me out there just handing out business cards. Go ahead, Brent.
there was like a big mining service truck company that to put a deal in place, or like a work in place, or sorry, I should say like a curriculum. So to upskill automotive technicians in 10 weeks.
Gangster.
So that way the only thing they had to do was get their hours, right? And I think they filled that class. So it was like 24 guys, 24 automotive techs jumped in on this class, and in 10 weeks, they essentially just had to go and work and get their hours. So whatever their hours looked like, only 3,000 hours. And then they were journeyman off-road mechanics, right? Journeyman heavy duty mechanics. So
That's pretty
you're
cool,
starting to
actually.
see, yeah, you start to see a lot like that. So I had a former student. He was an automotive tech. He was in my class for first period, and I just found out about that happening on LinkedIn. And I said, "Hey, man, like this program's happening. I think you should apply." I'm like, that way you don't have to come back here for 3 more years. They're going to upskill you. And I said, and you said you wanted to be in mining, so this would be the perfect outfit for you. And he's still working for that company now. I think he does like a 14 to 14 shift. Right. They fly him in and out of like Northwest territories. Right. So a lot further north than I work. And yeah, he's doing great. So yeah, it was a good switch for him.
Totally off topic. Northwest Territories, is that like a provincial, like a real place, or you guys just call it that?
No, it's a territory, dude.
I thought that was just the ice shelves up there. That's just pure, like you're out there walking with the polar bears on the ices.
Yeah. 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 No, that's actually, he has to go through, I think he told me he had to go through polar bear like awareness training. That's how far north.
Oh
he is.
yeah, I would think. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, well, hopefully you can run. So yeah.
You ain't not riding no polar bear, dog.
You only got to run faster than the guy beside you. That's
Yeah. If that polar bear wants you, dog, you're done. Like,
Yeah.
he's gonna eat you.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's even like up here, like you got Wajax is pulling a ton of techs out of the automotive world because they know, like you said, they know how to do like electrical diag, they know how to read a schematic, and a lot of the guys who know their way around electrical can figure out hydraulic pretty quick. So
yeah, 100%.
They're
pretty much same.
And then because I had one apprentice who didn't come back from school, he went to work for Wajax, and again they gave him a boot allowance, they gave him a tool allowance, he's got a company truck, and he doesn't even so a lot of you hear about it, like a lot of these forklift techs and stuff like that, how they're all like working outside in the cold and having to service like forklifts outside. He's on site to a warehouse that he's contracted out to, and that's all he does. He just goes and parks his truck in the bay, unloads all his tools into a cart, and then goes inside the warehouse and works on forklifts all day. So he's not even outside.
Just cranking, bud.
Yeah.
And thank you all for that learning lesson, because I just had to Google the Northwest Territories, and I was like, dude, how do I not know that? Like, I'm such an idiot.
Yeah.
How did I not know that was a real place? I feel like such an idiot over that. Anyway, the United States education system failed me. I didn't realize there was a Northwest Territories. So here's the thing: is I knew about Alberta because they got big deers. All right, so
yeah.
You guys got, which one's the plains? Which one's got all the plains? Is that Alberta?
The plain?
No, it's Saskatchewan.
Yeah, Saskatchewan's like flat.
Yeah. That's your guys' Kansas.
And then Manitoba's full of like mosquitoes and like.
So that's like Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Mosquitoes the size of hummingbirds, man. That's freaking nuts.
Yeah. That's wild.
Hey, Rich, to your point on how hard it is to like be successful in flat rate, or not easy it is, what do you think, or all you guys, what do you think about the people that are high performers? Are we like sick in the head to be able to do it like on a high level, or are they just numb to it? Are they drinking the Kool-Aid because they're doing it and it's working? So there's people that do it and it does work for, and they do have a good living and they are making good money, and they don't go bananas. They're kind of strong in the head and
it's the environment
with their craft.
It's the environment, John. Like, so let me put it in perspective. So like, say you work at a shop that's like Zach Perkles, right? Just shout out Zach, because like he works or he's over a high volume Honda dealership where they've got just boatloads of work, and it's like the same work over and over and over. And it's like, dude, like you're at a high volume dealer that just got tons and tons of work. I mean, dude, you're going to crank. I mean, and if you're cranking, you're going to, like this guy I was just talking to, he's going to work 6 hours or 6 days a week because he's trying to get that bread. Like, so, and honestly, my guys do the same thing on hourly. And it's like, dude, when you got plenty of work, you can work as much overtime as you want, and they're out there cranking. They do the same thing. It's like,
they're one of the 3%.
Well, I don't know. I think it's like that. like we were talking about the shops, though. I think it's like that top 10% of the shop
Yeah.
have that type
The
of work
employee
support.
experience, everything around you, everything you need, the perfect environment.
So, I mean, you've got, and I've never, heard Zach say one time ever, man, we just can't find any guys for night shift. He's got a night shift for you know what I mean? And a weekend shift. I think they're like,
There is no technician shortage.
there ain't no, yeah, we got all the technicians. That's why there's a shortage. We hired them all.
Yeah. Well,
Y'all got problems over there? Nah, we're good.
No,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
hired
we
all
all-
of them in the Tri-County area.
yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is like, I've never heard him say one time like, yeah, we're just struggling to get guys. Doesn't matter. Like he's got a night shift, he's got a weekend shift, he's got shifts of freaking guys that do just, like Richard does too. Like they got the whole shifts of guys that just detail cars. You know what I mean? They got shifts on shifts. You know what I'm saying? They got shifts in between shifts. They got swing shifts. They got night shifts. They got all the shifts.
Look at my shifts.
Yeah.
All the shit.
Look at all these shifts.
Yeah.
To
You
your
got that shift.
point, though,
Always
John.
seen-
So we got different tiers of high performers, though, right? You got the high performers that care and
Leaders.
and like they want to take care of the customer and stuff like that, and it's not necessarily that they're good leaders because a lot of really great technicians don't want to lead. They just want to come in and work on a vehicle
Care about the
and
client.
go
When you say
go
care,
home
care
at the
about
end of the day. And then you got your toxic high performers that know how, for lack of a better term, they know how to scam the system in order to crank their
Right.
hours up, right? They know how
Yeah,
to
kick the alignment machine.
they know
knock it out of
how to basically, like, they know how to feed out a good reel of lie and bait that marlin and then reel that sucker in, right?
gaslight.
And then you got people that are the high performers who want to progress off the bench. But the problem with progressing off the bench is as you grow, especially in the automotive world, if you want to progress up and move off the bench, there are certain steps you have to take. The problem is each one of those steps that you take, your compensation, your hourly compensation backs up a little bit as you grow your team, and then your compensation based off of how your team performs, that is supposed to offset the wage loss, right? But a lot of guys, they see that first initial hit because they don't know how to grow a team, or they don't know how to, or they don't want to grow a team. They're just chasing the title. And then it's a big wake up call for them where they're, I don't want to do this. I just want to go back to cranking out. Like the top performers, like you can have, it's just like any horse stable, right? You can have a couple of like high performance stallions, and then back in the back of the shop, that's where you got all your workhorses, right? You got all your Clydesdales in the back pulling that big old Budweiser wagon, right? So that you can always have a couple of high performers in the shop, but that again, you have to, your culture has to reflect the attitude that you want, because if you don't have a good shop culture and you have a shop full of just pit vipers who are going at each other, that you're not going to get anywhere, right? You're going to just have this horrible cycle of either employees fighting with each other, or they're just trying to steal work from each other, right? Like you'll have them coming up front and stirring the crap up on the drive because, I sold that job 6 months ago. Why is it going to the moron beside that? You don't want that for your culture, right? There's toxic high performer. They're your racehorse high performers that just all they want to do is come in and crank hours. And then there's your rare high performers that want to grow and want to be something beyond the bench. And those are the hardest ones to satisfy, right? Because I think we can all talk on that, where the progression within the automotive industry isn't a fast one. It's not something that you can go like from year 1 to 3, you're going from a loober goober on the bench, not knowing how to turn a wrench the right way, to service manager, right? We know it's not that way.
Which segues us into our last topic: why good technicians don't always make good leaders.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because that kind of like takes us into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Marshall, where's your
Go ahead.
where's your fountain of youth? You were talking about finding tech. You find a tech a day, I feel like.
Well, I mean, I just I set a goal of like, and your boy don't miss a metric. So like that's my shtick, right? Like I don't know. I set something in my head that I've got to do, and then I put things in place to get it. So that's why I'm always keeping my business cards. I go places where technicians are going to be. car shows and things like
Well,
that.
he's got to get his white monster in his glizzy every morning,
That's
right?
what
He
I'm
knows
saying.
it's
You
going
got
to
to
be
keep
food.
your white monster in there just in case.
Yeah.
You know.
You got to go where the techs go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why
Local watering hole.
hey, I'm successful because I take every shot. I miss some. You know what I mean?
And it,
I
on
make
that
some.
Wayne Gretzky
So,
reference, eh?
what's that?
I think he said it
It's
differently.
like almost,
So it's kind of like
Gretzky said
his.
it differently, but yeah, it was close.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, that's I think though, as far as like why a lot of times good technicians don't make good leaders, because we're most of the time, I feel like, in a very secluded, narrow focused mindset where we're not thinking in a team atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's a lot of the reason why. Also, like, we are really focused on, typically, I think most technicians are really focused on the things that help them make money right now. Right. So they're doing their training that helps them, make more money, more successful at what they're doing daily on the cars and the trucks that they're working on, or the equipment. But I think you have to really put in a lot of effort to be a good leader, even if you have natural leadership. Like, I feel like I've always been a person that has a natural leadership ability, but like, I put a lot of work into my leadership. I listen to all kind of podcasts. I do stuff with you guys, and I surround myself with other people that I think are good leaders. And I put a lot of effort into it. We all do SDL. We surround ourselves with known good leaders, right? And I think, what's the saying? If you play with the dogs, you get the fleas. You know what I'm saying? So I think we all do a pretty good job of surrounding ourselves with good people, and those people lift us up, and we learn a lot just by osmosis. You know what I mean? So I feel like a lot of technicians don't put a lot of effort into their leadership skills, which is my perspective. Is why I think a lot of them don't do well when they finally get that promotion or that opportunity. I don't feel like they put any effort into getting there. Be lined out, where, like, you wouldn't do that if you wouldn't do that if you had a timing belt job, right? You would go in there and you'd look up the procedure, and you would make sure you have all your parts laid out, and you'd have your tools laid out for the job. Like, you would have everything lined out. Well, when you get that foreman job, you don't look up to how to do it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to have everything laid out. You got
No.
to know how to do the job, right?
Yeah.
So
No, that's what I used to, even say in class. I said, pulling wrenches and taking bolts out of stuff is easy, right? It's managing people is like the hardest thing you can ever do, right? In this trade, right? Because we've got, you got a shop full of so many different personalities, and it's trade personalities too, right? So there's a lot of different ones, right? Some of them are really emotional, some of them are not, right? Some of them, yeah,
That's a whole topic itself.
right,
it's a good one. Yeah.
The 20 the 20 different personalities of
of a shop, right? And you can only have 10 techs, right?
What? That's
So-
there's usually 20 different personalities in one.
all day.
Well, let's wrap this up and run through a couple of topics that we can tell the viewers here about what we're going to chat about next time. So that way we can think about them this week, and then they can have something to look forward to, and we can have something to think about over the week. So I got a couple quick ones here that we can throw in here, and then we can kind of make some choices. I got here, why technicians give each other a hard time.
I think that goes towards Richard's line from Jesse Ventura in The Predator.
Reputation is currency,
For sure. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Let's see here. I don't know. This is more of a statement. Bottlenecks are leadership problems.
But
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Bad things are bad.
Yeah.
The not all top techs make good leaders is a fire one. It's also like not all employees should be managed. Like, your best employee shouldn't be a manager.
Yeah.
Not all the time type. Or you promoted your best employee and he's not a good leader.
Yeah. How about creating career paths that technicians actually care about?
yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, that'd be a
You
good.
know what I mean?
We got a good mix.
Yeah.
We got HD. We got car dealer. We got Marine.
All right. So we'll touch on, I think we'll primarily hit on the creating career paths that technicians like or care about. And then we can do, if we kind of run out of that, I think that at least everybody can look forward to hearing us talk about that.
Because you could do that plus the leader position, because one of the career paths would be off the bench, as Rich, I think that's what you're talking about. Right?
Yeah.
Off the bench is not turning wrenches, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's do.
There's a whole, and it's more just, there's more positions available because everybody thinks, oh, a technician moves off the bench, that it's shop foreman. There's more positions available than a foreman position within the
Yeah.
dealership setting for moving a technician that wants to come off the bench, right? So
That's
yeah.
good. That's good. I'm immediately
Yeah.
thinking about leadership position, but it sounds like there's a
Yeah, so let's do
there's a
that.
lot.
So
There's writing, there's
we'll,
parts. all that.
so we'll focus on the big one with the career path. So the viewers, y'all can look forward to us banging on that one pretty heavy. And I think we'll probably bounce around some stuff on why technicians give each other a hard time, because I feel like people don't really understand our culture, mechanic culture. And so, you know what I mean? Like, because I feel like that stuff, a lot of it comes from
It's
it's a bloodbath McGrath. Old McGrath Honda over there. Bloodbath McGrath. I feel like a lot of people don't really understand that it's really not typically come from a bad place. It's that, like, when somebody messes up and we give each other a hard time about it, it's really because we don't want them to do it again. Right. Things like that. So I feel like that's a lot of the reason why we are the way we are. And I feel like we can really point out to our viewers about that stuff. So I feel like they would probably enjoy some stuff like that. And then also, I think the career paths is going to be epic, because I feel like we can really just build up some stuff there and really add some value. Or what are the Utopia Motors? You know what I mean? What Utopia Motors would look like if it had just jam up career path for technicians? That'd be sick.